Hello, everybody. Welcome to The Boil, the second Platinum event in the TopDeck Championship Series. This one is, again, setting records for the largest CEDH event to occur. I'm in the booth here, remote, with my good friend Kyle Bogganese. How you doing today? I'm excited to see some CEDH.
I'm doing great. Thanks again for Eminence for having us. Yeah, this tournament's going to be really awesome.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. This CCS, the Charles Collectible show, awesome place. Was at the venue live last time, a great venue, and it's no surprise to see this a packed house once again. A lot of points on the line. We're of course going to kick things off watching our winner from our last event. Spoilers if you haven't seen that online yet. I'm sure you'll make time to do so if you have not. But Jorman Antigua, someone on quite a tear with their take on TNK, sometimes known as Blue Farm, but that's a contentious subject. And we're going to be watching him in a pod that is suspiciously green for a format I was told is Grixis. Pretty excited to get a look at that. But players are shuffling up, resolving mulligans. So let's get down. Let's have a look at the match and see exactly what our defending champion is up against in the first pod of the day. All right. While we are getting started here, want to call out thank you to Eminence TopDeck Series and all of our sponsors. We're going to be going through that throughout the day, making these events possible. I think this is, a huge boon to the CEDH community, being able to have such an excellent circuit to play on. And already, this series has gotten really, really competitive. But Jorman, of course, the player we're going to be watching, leading the leaderboard over 800 points, quite a lead over the second place, which is just under 600, 595. So kind of pacing the entire field right now. One event in, of course, a lot of Magic left to be played in this event. First place gets 500 points. If the second place in the leaderboard, that would be David Wilson is able to take this event down. And Jorman has a bad showing. Leaderboard could shift even with that much of a gap. So a lot of shifts possible. These events, these leaderboards get quite competitive, as I'm sure you know. And so Jorman showing up needs to defend not just the title, but also his spot on the leaderboard.
Yeah, it's anyone's game. Just it's a platinum event, ton of points. There's a lot of room for shakeup here.
Yeah, very, very excited to see these players resolving mulligans. Jorman, I think we've already seen take a few mulligans. We get the pot on screen here. We can see, looks like Atraxa, the Grand Unifier deck. I haven't had the opportunity to watch a lot of, despite its presence in the format. Only really a few people, I think, championing this deck, but with some good results to show for it. Second place, a deck I have not seen in a long time, actually. Edric, Spymaster of Trest. Traditionally, a Time Walk deck. Not seeing any of those available today. We'll see what he's up to. Then, of course, third place, we got Dargo Thrasios, a deck I've seen quite a bit, thanks to, once again, a few prominent players doing a lot of winning with that one. Dargo, a powerful combo piece in there. Of course, fourth place, UC. Starting from behind already. Mulligans and in fourth position. TNK, wielded by Jorman.
Yeah, Jorman's been mulling fairly aggressively, as most great players are going to do. Yeah, and oh wow, it was actually kind of a fast mulligan there.
Yeah, for all players, they were done quick. A lot of cards in hand for these players in the start. Soul Ring going to be a good start from the first seat, threatening potentially turn 2 Ristic, although that is a turn 1 fish. That is quite a bit more demanding of any interaction from this all blue pod, which has nothing to say about it. It's in.
Yeah, Dargo Thrasios gets to kind of say, hey, like maybe I just want to develop with creatures, ignore the fish. Like this is round 1. Players are just kind of, they may not be ready to fight with everyone and get into their politics.
They haven't done their slogs for the day.
Yeah, they're not ready. They're not up. We're not up yet. We're just like everyone's getting started.
Well,
so they're just cruising.
Yeah, looking through this Edric deck, I thought like there's Displacer Kitten available, but like we're not looking at like a critical mass combo time walk thing like we've seen in the past. This is a lot more just like make infinite mana and I guess have either whatever your
It's
Kinnan,
kind of
or
like
I don't
Kinnan,
even know what
except
you're
they have a
supposed to
different
do.
blue-green
Kinnan,
commander,
yeah,
almost.
Kinnan is what we're doing here.
Yeah,
Either way, it
yeah,
looks like to be very interactive, very grindy, and a lot of clones for opposing dock sides. Makes a
yeah.
lot of sense.
Moving more toward just no bad card philosophy. Just
Love it.
yeah,
Ooh, little Archivist of Ogma action from Jorman.
okay.
Response to this polluted Delta. And yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and put the card right there while you're fetching. I ain't gonna forget that. I love it. Little heuristics there. Does notably quite a few creatures played here. Not too many fish triggers quite yet, showing kind of the power of creatures in this format, and maybe why all these
Yeah.
players, except Jordan, chose to bring green decks to the table. Being able to play underneath these Mystic Remora effects, proven to be a strong strategy. A lot of the stock that Kinnan gets in this field here today, and a lot of notable players showing up with Kinnan. So I
Yeah,
think we're going to see a
I'm
lot of
working
that.
on an article about Tivit right now, and one of the things is turn one Ristic study can be kind of dangerous if like good players are just like, okay, we're moving around it. You're not going to get that much, and you're going to sacrifice all your development turns keeping this fish around. Like you have the potential to get got here, and so Edric needs to watch out for that.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, how long can you afford to keep it around? That's been an experience I've had, an experience I've felt. And it's interesting. There's been a lot of talk recently of, the mid-ranginess of the CEDH format as a result of some of these powerful card advantage engines. And I think we're really seeing green get a lot more stock than people think because of the need to adapt to this mid-ranging format. You just need to get good creature to play, get board presence, and that's going to matter. Just play for fish and go is Edric player. So here is Thrasios.
Gracios Passios. That's just like this is a great pod for it. Like people are just kind of chilling out here.
Yeah, expected to be, I'm sure, a very long grindy pod. Maybe puts Edric in a worse position. I mean, a deck normally looking to grind, being able to stop some of the faster decks. All these decks kind of okay grinding. I mean, Dothy Bleedwalker from Jordan here, another piece that just adds to, okay, we can sit and grind. That's a great Tymna attacker. Going to be like represent a lot of value in any counterspell fights over payoff. This Dothy offers a lot for Jorman for a single creature that doesn't trigger Mystic Remora, as Esper Sentinel also adds to that mix.
Yeah, not an accident. Jorman, crushing everything, obviously, as we've said before and we'll say again, but
A lot
it's
this
not an
tournament, I think.
accident that they kept this hand. It's just established some harder stacks pieces in Dothy and some softer in Esper Sentinel and Archivist, certainly not being the threat at the table, can turn on a dime with the dockside extortionist once it starts getting ramped up, but currently not there yet. Not a lot of development by the rest of the field for docksides.
Do you get away with claiming to be not the threat with 3 creatures in play, all of which are card advantage engines of some capacity? Is that
I
something you get
mean,
away with?
yeah, that could be.
I
It's
mean, there's a fish in play.
interesting
You can make
texture
some
to
counter
this
arguments.
pod. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of what I think all these players expect, and certainly Jorman, right? And this is where you talk about goldfishing and the value of it. A lot of people like to goldfish their CDH decks, but when you look at a pod like this, it influences your mulligan so much. We saw Jorman do a lot of aggressive mulliganing and land on a hand that didn't actually have that much fast mana, but had a ton of
Yeah.
creatures. I think that correctly assesses exactly how slow this pod's going to be and how to set up for that. Already, I think, kind of getting to see evidence of that, and now, I mean, getting rewarded with cards coming.
Yeah, I mean Atraxa, I read Atraxa, it's going to be a little bit of slower grindy game. So yeah, that heads up mulligan there. We haven't talked a lot about Dargo Thrasios here in this, like, what are they doing? They're just kind of quietly developing over there, but they do have the potential to kind of just like run with a Dargo combo at some point in the mid game as well. So we got to keep an eye on them as well.
Yeah, as these players are just kind of dorking around with random creatures and establishing board state, I think like Dargo Thrasios in this pod has the highest potential to just combo out over the top, being that all of their combos really are just creature based, and that's worth a lot right now in this pod. And even though Atraxa kind of has that going too, it's still just a little bit more to get started than Dargo is. Dargo really, I mean, you don't need to start from much at all. We've seen that happen multiple times across tournaments, as it looks like Mystic Remora
Giving it
Not being paid
away.
for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love it. I love it here. Everyone's like, yeah, no, don't care about that fish. It's old hat.
Well, here comes Devoted Druid, representing potentially infinite mana. Every time I've seen it happen in
Yeah.
60 card formats, a little bit harder to set up in this, especially with no outlet in the command zone. Again, a lot of infinite mana in this Edric deck for Luis, and not really that many. Like, there's no payoff in the command zone. You just have to like draw one, which maybe that's fine. Maybe that's a good enough plan. It works in other formats, but just not normally the texture you see for these infinite mana combo style decks.
Yeah, and Edric did Worldly Tutor at the end of turn and gave up the Mystic Remora. So this Devoted Druid maybe looks innocuous, but really not. This is like, I'm surprised the table's not slowing down a little bit, being like, they're like, we got to watch out for them on the next turn cycle. Like, we hopefully, like, Blue Farm or Atraxa can like counter the just an infinite mana combo on the following turn.
Yeah, I mean, there hasn't really been any interaction used at all. So
Yeah.
that would hold, especially with as many cards have been drawn, as many kind of not like moves that have been made by anybody, and the entire pod being blue. My apologies. You would
Yeah.
expect some interaction from somebody somewhere. Now the question is, of course, with this being a singleton format, does that interaction line up with whatever's going on? A lot of the texture of CDH right now, as we alluded to, is playing combos that just kind of dodge the common ways to disrupt them face up, either being all through creatures, or maybe harder enchantments are harder to counter than the instants and sorceries. We've seen kind of a decline in ad nauseum, and we certainly see that present in this pod. Even though it's still around, it's not just like must be played
There's
by
one
everybody. That's
copy.
not the way to
Yeah.
combo. Yeah, that's and I think that puts more pressure on the interaction. I mean, Force Will and all those ilk still work just fine, but if we're talking about Fierce Guardianship, what is that going to do against Dargo combos? Oh, maybe less.
Yeah, they do have the potential in the mid game, and maybe that's why Edric's kind of just saying, "I'm forget the fish. I'm going for one half of an A plus B combo here, just because like I cannot fight on this grindy stage." So like we are seeing some players being kind of backed into a corner here, saying like I can't keep up with like what Blue Farm's doing. They're doing exactly what they need to do in this pod. So that there's some inevitability being gained there.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. And I think that's going to be true too when you look at kind of the presence of removal. If this pod is going to be all about creatures, the TNK deck's the one with the Toxic Deluge. That's a lot of the math that I have if I'm any of these other decks. Still, from Atraxa, though, it's been a ton of mana development. I mean, we just trying to cast Atraxa here? Is that just their entire game plan? One mana short right now. Oh, look at that.
The bottom
Colorless.
half of the pod has like access to Pyroblast or Rebs or just a lot of things to counter that. So that's going to be scary. Like, are they going to be able to get away with being a parasite, as Atraxa is sometimes known for?
Yeah,
Like, hey
I
guys,
don't think
can I
there's a
just resolve this
single way.
Atraxa? I gotta fight somebody.
Yeah, I don't think that Atraxa is just resolving heads up. You're gonna need a little bit of
No,
help.
it's okay. So like, let's see what Edric goes for. This is they got half of their combo. Like, are they going to go for something here? That there's not a lot else going on.
Yeah, I mean I think we saw Devoted Druid actually search for, which would really speak to a plan to either use the burst of mana from the card itself face up or combo here. As here's Kennen. Well, that's an infinite mana payoff. I think that's especially when we're talking about the deck Edric. I think that one requires quite a bit of attention from the table, but I just saw a lot of shrugs. I think that one might just be in. Seagate Restoration as a land. I believe it's just called Seagate, maybe with some qualifiers.
Yeah.
Seagate Reborn, I'm being told. Thank you. See, I just call it the front half because that's what it is. And Rhystic Study, the follow-up. And that does draw Jorman this card. I mean, this Rhystic Study, I think, worth quite a bit if you're talking about this pod being creature-based. That actually is something that maybe makes Dargo not as enticing of a combo, because you do still have to pay for the Rhystic Study.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the red players on third and fourth seat like might be feeding into Rhystic when they're ready to go for a win attempt here.
I'm gonna see a response. Is that a Worldly Tutor? I believe that's a Worldly Tutor.
I think it is.
In response to Rhystic Study, that's gonna eat a mental misstep from Jorman. Okay.
I like the misstep there. Like
Yeah, I mean, I do too, especially
that's
if
a good
you
interaction point. It's a
like
good
things
window
are
to
slipping.
play.
I think if you're the TNK player, and actually,
Mhm.
ironically, I think Jorman is the one most interested in this Ristic study resolving and getting value. Like,
Mhm.
I think he's fine saying I can beat Edric in the heads up if we're both drawing a ton of cards. I just need to keep these creature-based combo decks from comboing out over the top of me. The best way to do that is to stop some of this action now. Mental misstep, expiring as the game goes on a little bit against these creatures. Not as much of the Thassa's Oracle Consult that it might have targets against late, like you see in some other pods. And some good value there. I like that misstep a lot.
Mhm. It seems innocuous, but no, we're like dialed into it. Like, oh yeah, I love that. Like it's
Well, I think it shows really
no, for
difference in
sure it is.
perspective. A lot of people,
Yeah.
like, when you talk about mental misstep, they're like, immediately, if you're not really familiar with CDH, like, yeah, we mental misstep soul rings in this house. We just mental
Yeah.
misstep soul rings. And the more you play CDH, I actually think the less you do that. Because
Yeah.
there's higher value stuff as the game progresses. Still do it sometimes, but,
Yeah, it's a couple layers down on like the texture of this pod on that being relevant right here.
Absolutely.
Baristic resolving. Yeah, so
Chord of Calling X is 2. No, let's see. What do we got in Thrasios Dargo? I believe we have our own Kennen. We have Gilded Drake. Of course, things like
it's a
Ragavan. Dockside's
reasonable
the most
dockside.
obvious.
Yeah,
Yeah, Dockside's like the most face-up
not a bad
obvious.
one. Yeah,
Flesh Duplicate, a new add to multiple of these decks.
love it. Yeah, table, and if I'm playing Tivit, that means there's 2 opposing docksides to count to clone. So yeah, I've been really impressed with it.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of that one. We'll get a little read on that one as we're doing a little bit of searching. Flesh Duplicate Blue from the Doctor Who set. So I guess if you're a Whovian, maybe you're familiar with this card already. 0/0. You may have Flesh Duplicate enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield except has Vanishing 3. That creature doesn't have Vanishing. In CEDH, if you're cloning a Dockside, the game probably is not going 3 more turns, so
Yeah,
Phantasmal Image. And notably, you could like pick it up with stuff like Snap and stuff like that, which you could not do with Phantasmal Image previously.
yes,
Be potentially a huge upgrade, I imagine.
yep. Yeah, I play with Hullbreaker Horror and Displacer Kitten for that reason over Phantasmal Image.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Goes with the Dockside.
Fine. Yeah,
Big
makes a lot of
surprise.
sense. But once again, when you talk about huge Docksides, is this that big? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, 7's a lot.
Seven's
7's a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Dockside is in play. Archivist card for Jorman coming presumably. And here we're going to get some treasures represented. Nice big dice.
Yeah.
See that
Make sure
just
they know
fine.
there's
7
7
treasures.
whoppers right there.
Yeah. Quickly gonna use 3 of those. Some life. Is this Metamorph? Oh, Birthing Pod. Hello.
Okay. All right.
That one is extremely impactful. If we're talking about creature combos, there's few cards better at enabling those than the card Birthing Pod.
Yeah. Maybe there's some politics, maybe there's some discussions happening around
I
this
imagine
birthing
this
pod.
one is gonna. There's gonna be some talk about. Hey,
There's-
what are we doing here? Is this game over right now? What are we doing?
Yeah. This is a part in CDH where maybe if you're new, you think like, what does Birthing Pod get? And then you decide, well, it's in their deck for a reason. If it resolves, you're probably dead.
You're probably just. I mean, everything sounds bad to me. Pod Dockside gets Spellseeker doesn't sound like something that has me living for another turn. Even just grabbing Imperial Recruiter, Internal Witness, notably pretty strong. Just pot away your Dockside Eternal Witness it back. Sounds pretty good to me. And then eventually, of course, you build up to maybe Displacer Kitten. Just start kittening. Never seen that done before. That would be hot.
Yeah, there's a. Do they have Snap as well? Like Snap Bolt, they can do like some.
They have
infinite
Snap.
bolting
Yeah,
the
they have Bolt in
table.
their deck too.
Yeah.
We got quite a few options. Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of discussion here, Jorman.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't think Jorman's going to let that one ride, but Jorman's actually first to act. So maybe there's some discussion about, once again, how to line
Yeah.
up your interaction. That's going to be a big part of the equation of players get frustrated, right? When you just die to these combos that slip through the interaction in one way or the other. You know, you're looking at Blast, they use a green card to combo, you know, whatever. You have a Swan Song, but it's an artifact that matters. These kinds of things come up. And I think we're seeing more and more a lot of discussion about how, hey, you know, here's what I have. Can you answer this? Can I answer this? And Jorman, someone who's done a ton of winning very recently, I think is quite prolific and strong when it comes to doing exactly that. But I think the table with him about to untap. Yeah, he just flashed. Is that a mystical tutor? What was that?
It was either a mystical tutor or Force of Will. I didn't quite catch it.
I mean, it was a blue card for sure,
Yeah.
and certainly something that adds to. I think I see Force of Negation too. If I'm looking at Jorman's hand, I think Jorman's got quite a bit rolled up and is maybe just doing some politicking to see if someone else will use something, and somebody else will.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Traxa coming in with Force, pitching Metamorph, paying for all of the things.
Okay, responsible. I like it. All they've been doing is adding mana to the table, so
Yeah, they have a ton of mana.
Good read by
left after
Jorman
this.
to like get them to use it, hold on to some of the interaction, some of the blue cards.
I have no idea how Jorman got away with not using any interaction here.
But yeah, that was actually
negation.
something.
The spells are flying. All right, okay. I think the gig's up. This birthing pod matters. If there was any politics about, oh, you know, it's not gonna, it's value. I promise. No.
Yeah. You can draw a card with Archivist if I search.
Yeah, look, you're gonna get.
I'm trying to help you.
My card goes to the graveyard for Dothy anyway. I can't return a witness my dock side. Come on. Yeah, no, I think
Cardium play.
Take that somewhere. Holograms creatures. I mean, they suck. Come on. When's the last time Pod was playable in CDH, guys? Just let it happen.
Okay. Yeah, I saw CEDH that in a tournament I played last weekend play Pod, which was kind of cool. It was something that I didn't see very often.
Yeah, it's looked good. I mean, I've seen people play it just to like grab like Hermiter and stuff. Like
Hydra. I think it's come back.
It's just like a good card, especially as the format slows down. If you people want to grind, once again, I played Modern with that card. Few cards are better at just overpowering a grind than a birthing pod.
Yeah, very able to pivot really quickly here. But I think they know, they're so something dangerous is going to happen. They're not just grinding here, but man, that Force of Will, like
how'd
Jorman do that?
Jorman almost could just. I have no idea. We can't hear it, but it's incredible. Jorman willing to flash a few cards, say I have this, and then not even cast them.
Yeah,
I think that's an L for team cast your spells.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'd love to talk to him about that one. Like, what was just said there?
I don't know if he coaches, but here's a plug for his coaching. I could use some of that coaching. This is what I need.
There's some glamoring perhaps at play. This pack's still on the stack.
Yeah, I
still
think
politicking here. It's
stack. I don't think anything was paid for as far as that goes. So maybe we're just letting Ristic triggers resolve. A lot of discussion here. Makes sense. This is a point where if this pod resolves, it may not be game over immediately, but it's not far off. And Veil of Summer to protect the Force of Will. Again, paying for Ristic Study. A lot of commitment to survival from Derek. And I really feel like you're going to get punked by Jorman using all your interaction like this.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say for sure. But, I mean, the Veil, it feels more free to use, but even still, I almost just don't like committing. I almost just like letting it happen and seeing what else the rest of the table has. Something Ashani did a lot of beating into my head is you're not winning the game if these players aren't going to cast any of their 7 cards. So you just got to make other players cast their spells. And it's kind of counter to my philosophy. I kind of like taking Derek's approach where I'm going to use what I got and then good luck. But with Jorman being the first player to untap after this fight, I actually think there's a lot more discussion. Like that is something that matters that you don't see actually matter in the formats we come from, the 60 card formats. You just don't have to consider, okay, who untaps after this combo attempt. It's not a factor, but it matters a lot here.
Yeah, this is, and that was actually something we didn't talk about. Really good seat composition for Jorman. Like Dargo Thrasios is probably going to be the person who really rocks the boat and then gets to capitalize on that second win attempt.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's something we called out early. Is that Dargo Thrasios? If there's a deck that can attempt a win confidently underneath the density of interaction that's going to be present in order to like have enough confidence to be like, all right, I'm going to try it first. I think it would be Dargo Thrasios, and I think we're certainly seeing that. I mean, Dockside into a non-creature spell with some backup, like that's certainly a full attempt of some variety. But Jorman gonna be the first to capitalize. It didn't have to commit anything to the fight so far. Now there is still a Rhystic Study, drawing cards. I mentioned earlier that I think Jorman was pretty happy with that Rhystic Study being in play. Maybe less so with being the first to untap here and maybe looking to go for an attempt. If if Luis is sandbagging some stuff, we could be seeing Jordan get blown out. But I actually almost wouldn't be surprised to see Jordan just continue to be patient. Something Brian Koval's talked a lot about with his philosophy in T&K when I've had the chance to speak with him about it is just whatever. I mean, until the game is very overwhelmingly, what's the pressure? What's the rush? And if you don't have to use interaction from German seat, what is the rush?
Yeah, and this birthing pod is, I don't want to say it's bait because it's insanely scary, but there's so much dockside treasures remaining after this. It's
a lot of mana left over to work with. And that could be part of the problem too, is Dargo getting cheaper as we crack treasures. I mean, not something we've talked about really yet, but I think it actually just costs 1 right now. You sacked 3 treasures.
Yeah, 3 treasures, yeah.
Yeah. So our Dargo costs 1. So if there's any combo pieces with Dargo, I mean, even like Displacer Kitten, we're just there, right? Displacer Kitten, Dargo, bam.
Yeah,
we need a non-creature spell of some kind. Okay, we need more.
Which
we need more.
Maybe that's how Jorman was able to get away with it on the first Pact of Negation, saying like, hey, I can't use this to like defend myself. I'll use it at some point. I can't use it offensively, given my position. I don't know. I'm trying to find anything and everything to get.
You're trying to find any way he got away with this?
There. Yeah. I'm trying to piece together what is being said here.
No, I don't blame you at all.
Like,
I have no idea.
This is a really interesting stack.
It is.
Like, this turn.
And all these cards are just more fuel for German, too. It's like, oh, look, nice birthing pod. It's just underneath my Dothy now. I could have a pod next turn and then go pod for Dockside and then, off the
turn Esper Sentinel into Dockside.
Yeah. I mean, Esper Sentinel certainly expiring as players develop as much mana as we have here. A lot of Kinnons at this table that allow for paying for that particular card.
Maybe that finds Oracle, line up your combo. Like,
now it actually could use
pod, could use a birthing pod. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, sure.
That'd be a play of the day.
Basically, color. That's what gives.
Yeah.
I'll have a talk with the RC.
Grand Abolisher. Okay. Nothing to see here.
Abolisher? What? It's bait.
Jorman probably just has a lot of cards in hand,
Yeah,
it's just, I got a discard. I'm just gonna play this. Like, don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, now all the pressure is on the Edric player here. So, like, you have Rhystic Study. Now's your time. If you got it, you got it. But there's like no removal anyway. I mean, it's all bounce spells, no removal. But these creatures extremely hard to counter. I don't know how Jorman feels like they're gonna get away with one here. Didn't have to use any interaction. Now has a ton of interaction to defend this Grand Abolisher. I mean, Dothy, we already talked about it. Like, face up, Dothy could just like get pod, get Dockside, bleh. But is that even the most that can be done?
Yeah, and there's a counter. There's counter under Dothy too. You can there's a lot of options. That Dothy's super dangerous.
Oh, what thing too, because you can't crack these treasures, right? With Grand Abolisher in play. Yeah, you have to move these treasures because then you can pod Dockside and you get all those treasures mana and Force of Will hard cast.
Okay.
All right. I mean, that's a lot of commitment, but there was one left in the chamber. Very interesting. Manual mode on Force of Will, not something you see that often.
And some discipline on when they were firing off the birthing pod too. Like, they that line was available to them, but they're like, no, I'm not gonna fight over it too hard. Not when Blue Farm is going to take their next turn, and it's clear that they have a bunch of gas in the tank ready to go off.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, heuristics change by deck, but I think as this format has progressed, we've kind of seen, okay, like the fights have gone from commit everything to your first attempt, and if you lose, the next player wins, to, okay, save one in the chamber. If you go for it and like you get resistance, hold your last piece. Because you can't afford, like, you'll just die. Like, you're just going to lose and die. Instead of taking that last risk, and that's very counterintuitive, I think, to even like normal Magic heuristics, where it's just like make them have it kind of style play.
Yeah.
here, that's just not realistic when players are updating their hand so much with things like Rhystic Study, Archivist, Esper Sentinel, all the cards that we're seeing at play here. And that does get countered.
Lays it down. Okay. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's a big win if you're an Edric fan, because once again, all these Rhystic cards, I mean, full hand, full grip, hasn't had to commit a single card to it. Jorman's going to get a little bit more of a grip as well, as we're making some attacks with this Tymna in play. Again, the strength of Tymna, I think, well known to CEDH players at this time.
Yeah.
Some card advantage, and one of the best to do it as
Drawing
far as
up to
mid-range
3.
goes. It looks like we're not going to do any blocking.
Right.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Players very attached to their creatures in play. And
Wow, that Tymna, just draw 3.
How about Ancestral Recall for turning your creature sideways? Is that strong?
Broken.
It does damage.
Such a good game for Tymna.
Better than a Azami on rate? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is just an Azami.
I'm sure there's some Azami fanatics out there that are just chomping at the bit. Well, actually, whatever. Mox Opal. Well, pitch Spirit Guide.
Oh, okay.
Orcish Bowmasters with the Rhystic trigger. Chooses to draw anyway. No, that's the draw for the Bowmasters. Okay. So, yeah, we have, with the trigger on the stack, 4 Mox Opal, Flash and Bowmasters, draw from Rhystic for the Bowmasters, which I believe was not paid for, and we're going to pick off the Findhorn Elves. That's gonna
Great board for Bowmaster here with that Rhystic.
Oh, yeah. Ton of X1s.
A lot of green decks. Yeah, this is...
I mean, ironically, I think Atraxa is actually the happiest to see Bowmasters of the players.
I think so too.
Controlling Bowmasters, just like, okay, my creature's a 7/7. Good luck, bozo.
Yeah, Atraxa at least gets to untap with the way Jorman is progressing this turn. So yeah, and gonna pick off the other green deck's creatures. So yeah.
And how disciplined is Jorman, too? It's kind of the same thing, right? The same heuristic where try Grand Abolisher, got countered. All right, there was resistance. We'll wait another turn until my mana's refreshed, my hand's refreshed. No rush. Whatever. I didn't have to commit anything to this fight. I just cast a card. It ate a Force of Will. Premium spell in this pod because it counters creatures. And now 2 of them burned through that aren't yours. Jorman's looking to be in a great spot as far as what free interaction is available to the opponents.
Yeah, that Rhystic just sitting there, it'd just be like a ticking time bomb if he just kept fighting that. So he didn't feel like he had the gas for that. So yeah, just pivoting again. Just
like, all right, off it. Now Bowmasters is in play. That does some amount to mitigate the Rhystic, or at least cap it for what it can do, and it also does a good job controlling the rest of the creature decks. Really, really disciplined play from Jorman. And here is that birthing pod from Dothy.
All right.
I mean, love it. Love this.
I wanted to see this.
Didn't have to tap any mana for this. Anytime you can go for something like a pseudo win attempt without tapping any mana, I think that's a really, really good thing to pull the trigger on, even if we are in the spot where we've met resistance previously this turn.
Yeah, Birthing Pod, great pivot card. You can kind of do everything with this deck. Yeah, Jorman displaying a lot of flexibility in how his game plan is being executed.
I think that's a lot of the strength. If you're going to advertise, Timocrom to a CDH player, hey, like, why play this over this? It's like the flexibility. You have the ability to, win games on turn 2, but more often than not, especially with the texture of today's CDH, you actually just have the ability to just put relevant creatures, multiple of them, in your command zone in play and execute a long, grindy game plan. And I think we're definitely seeing that here. Rhystic trigger from the Birthing Pod. Gonna draw. It's another Bowmaster trigger. And maybe we marked damage on Devoted Druid here. That's no longer exiled. Yeah, let's get that one in the graveyard. We did it. Okay. I like this, too. I mean, still a lot of juicy targets for the Thrasios Dargo player, actually choosing to pick off the Devoted Druid instead. Correctly, I think, identifying Edric is actually the threat at the table. To you. Obviously, Jorman is the most ahead. But if you're Jorman, second place at the pod right now is this Edric player with their running Rhystic. Luis, you gotta pick off some of that mana that Devoted Druid represents. Quite a bit. Red Birthing Pod. Doing a little bit of thinking now. I think we're still thinking with pod on the stack. less threatening from Blue Farm. I think you can expect the kinds of things. It's just gonna be like whatever, Dockside's Thoracle, like not other stuff
And
you can
Grand
interact with.
Abolisher is in the graveyard too. So like that was another one that could have been just lights out if the hand kind of lent itself to that as well.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Just grab that and then have it all rolled up in the hand. Looks like this is channeled Boseiju. Overpaid for it potentially. We have Kinnan in play. Those only cost 1. Going after Esper Sentinel in response. The only
Okay.
1 mana creature in play, so
Yeah.
that does shut off
Interesting.
Dockside and Thoracle considerations for Birthing Pod. Actually, pretty heads up here.
Yep. Still a lot of really juicy targets though for this Birthing Pod.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for a Birthing Pod on a table full of creatures to be bad.
Yeah.
We'll see exactly how much that does mitigate it, but I do think if that's the only piece of interaction you have, I like firing off there. The 2s are the most appealing slot from the Blue Farm side.
Yeah, and Ranger Captain could even go get like a Ragavan. So that's for tomorrow's Birthing Pod activation too.
Tomorrow's.
There's so much going on here.
Well, Ranger Captain shutting off non-creatures, less impactful here. Actually, Drannith probably is what needed to be stopped, because Drannith here on this board actually looks great.
Maybe that was an opportunity to politic there if Jorman can make a deal. Say don't kill this thing if I do go the Drannith route. Like there's an Atraxa and a Dargo hanging out here.
Well, Archivist is hitting the bin. Life paid, and we're going searching for a 3. Is that only Ranger Captain? That is... Oh, or Simeon's Spirit Guide if you want it, Opposition Agent as well. All right, there we go. We got
see, I think Jorman wanted to go for the Simeon Spirit Guide, but it was exiled earlier this turn. Or
unlucky,
last turn.
Truly.
Really unlucky. So he's going to settle for a silver medal.
For Ranger Captain.
Yeah.
Finding Monkey. We'll see if we're interested in putting this Monkey in play. Not the best Monkey I've ever seen.
Yeah, just a Dockside next turn.
Oh,
okay. All right.
It's go time now.
It's a Grand Abolisher effect right there.
All right, we have Diabolic Intent and Brain Freeze going to go ahead and be shown. We have 4 mana, Diabolic Intent. We have Lotus Petal already. So Diabolic Intent, sacrifice a creature in play, grabs Underworld Breach. Boseiju was already used, and this might just be good enough. I mean, Jorman believes that it is. The players might make him play it out.
What's live? Endurance? Endurance is...
Endurance works. Elvish Spirit Guide Boseiju from the other players.
Yeah.
I mean, you're...
Not a lot. There's a lot of endurances. There's... I presume Atraxa has one in their list, and as well as Edric, so... I think that's all they got left.
Check, shall we? Let's see. I mean, you definitely make Jorman play it out if you're this table. I don't see one in the Dargo Thrasios deck. Take a look at Atraxa. Atraxa does have an endurance. Not a lot of cards left to work with here.
Mm-hmm.
Edric does also have an endurance. So 2 endurances at the table. Underworld Breach is grabbed. That uses all of Jorman's mana. Of course, there is still a Lotus Petal in the graveyard right now. A lot of hands moving around. Rhystic Study does still trigger.
Still opportunities to find it.
Yeah,
not a done deal yet, but the window is closing.
The window is very quickly closing. All right. I mean, it is just about whether or not Luis can draw endurance through this Underworld Breach. Lotus Petal, exile 3 cards. That triggers Rhystic Study, which should draw a card and trigger Bowmasters. We'll see. I mean, maybe... if Luis isn't drawing here, does that just mean we have endurance rolled up? All right. Well, we did it twice. There's Freeze. There's Thassa's Oracle. All right. I guess that's just it. Jorman's gonna win this one from 4th seat against a pile of green mid-rangey decks, able to navigate the game in such a way, able to win after the first win attempt. A texture we've seen a ton in CEDH. This is not, something that is completely foreign, but it is really strange how it played out, given the politicking, who used what interaction. I mean, the Atraxa player committed everything and then didn't even untap.
Yeah, just making some mana rocks, helping it, countering like a few spells, throwing that Force of Will and that Veil down, but that was about it there. Yeah, Jorman only had to commit that mental misstep, right? Is
Yeah,
that
and
on the
that was
worldly
to what
tutor to
seemed to be
slow
an
down?
innocuous, yeah, worldly tutor that I don't think most players would even have countered. A lot of people are just like, yeah, whatever, through
And there's an
tutors. Like, oh,
archivist
I'm
in
not to
play
count with your
too,
tutor.
but
Yeah, juicy to just let it happen.
just
Doesn't.
yeah,
And as a result, I think actually mitigated the combo turn from the Thrasios Dargo deck, and then still was able. I mean, this is incredible stuff. I love seeing it on camera. Where it was able to reveal a little bit of his hand. I love that. A little bit of give and take. This is what I got, and just be like, all right, can you help me out? And other players commit interaction when he's the first untap after the combo attempt, able to leverage that. I mean, it looked like he could even just pass. It looked like the game was entirely rolled up no matter what. He could choose to pass if he wants, and
yes,
is almost certainly going to get to untap with all of his stuff. He could go for it then and there, and chose to, I think, wisely. Birthday Pod for Ranger Captain, pretty safe to go through it if you have it all rolled up in your hand. He did, and I mean, German, I think, putting on a clinic and displaying why he is the current leader, why he is a defending champion for this event, and quite a performance for our round number 1 here at the Boil. Largest event to date. Seem to keep
yeah,
breaking records, does these Eminence events, and despite all these records broken, German doesn't stop winning. Now, I'm gonna get a quick check how much time is left in the round. We can. All right. I do not want to get a quick check so we can know how long we're going to be gone for. Looks like we have about 30-ish minutes left in the round. So going to maybe see if we can get an interview, something else started. Either way, we're going to take a quick break. Do not go anywhere. We'll be back with either interview, more CEDH action, or something else very, very shortly here at the Boil. Going to be a lot of magic, so strap in all day. Some great CEDH stuff, and a lot of talented players here today. Kyle and I are going to be here theoretically all day, provided nothing happens. And we'll catch y'all here again shortly.